The ease of working remotely and how we're able to work remotely really depends on where we're traveling. When we were in Costa Rica earlier this year, working remotely was pretty straightforward. We had an apartment with reliable internet, we were within 1 or 2 hours of our home time zone, and we had a quiet place to sit down. But on our 2-month-long road trip through northern BC, Yukon and Alaska, where we were living out of our micro camper, was much different. Each day we were traveling to a different spot and we were never sure if we were going to have good internet or not, and it always took us a little bit more planning to be able to make sure that we can get to those meetings that we needed to get to. And in between the ease of working from Costa Rica and the difficulties of remote working from our Northern Canada road trip was our trip to Greece and Italy last year. There we had apartments with reliable internet, but that time zone difference really gave us some challenges. And when we were traveling from one location to another, like when we were traveling from Athens to Rome, we weren't able to work at all. So our first piece of advice on how to work remotely is to be honest with your employer about what you're trying to do and discuss your options. If you're able to have an employer and clients who are supportive of you working remotely, it is a lot easier, especially when things don't go as planned. My next piece of advice, which maybe should have been my first, is to find a job that lets you work remotely. For us, this means working jobs where we can work from our computers and take meetings remotely. Jobs where you need to be physically present or jobs that require travel themselves probably aren't great options. But the good news is that these days, employers are offering so many different remote work options. It is a lot easier than it was a few years ago. I've also seen people who are able to travel and find work in places like restaurants, hotels, and bars while they're traveling, but that's not something we have experience with ourselves. On that note, every country has different travel and visa requirements, so make sure you get the one that's right for you. When working remotely, you should also make sure you check the internet speeds of the places you're renting from. A rental might advertise that they have fast internet, but as we've discovered, fast means different things to different people. So always make sure you get those actual upload and download speed numbers from the place you're renting from before you agree to rent it. Because we usually rent apartments for at least a month or more, we've actually even been able to negotiate with landlords about the internet speed. And so we've had places that have upgraded their speed for us while we're there. It's worth it to them to spend a few extra dollars on faster internet for the fact that we're staying there all month. Now, if you're staying in an apartment with good internet, the next tip won't apply. But if you're on a road trip and you're staying in your camper, you might need a different spot to work every day. Places like Starbucks and other cafes can be good options, but you often have to buy food to work there, which can add up after a while. They also don't necessarily have easy electrical outlets that you can use at all of the tables. So one of the places we love to work when we're on the road is the library. There are so many libraries, even in small little towns as we're driving along, and most of them have at least reasonable internet, and they have lots of places to work with good tables and places to plug in and recharge. And we get to recharge not just our laptops, but even our power stations and other devices that we're using when we're on the road. On our last road trip, we went to so many libraries in small little towns, and we met so many nice staff, and we really started to feel like we were a part of the community, even if we were only there for a day or two. At times, we might even work from inside the car. Sometimes we might pull up to the library and park outside where we can still get the Wi-Fi, but then we take a meeting from inside our vehicle so that we can talk without interrupting anybody else. When you're working and traveling, you'll also need more time to see places. I like to get up in the morning, do my workout, work for a few hours, and then spend the afternoon sightseeing. If we're staying in an apartment for a month, it's really nice to kind of get into that work and tour rhythm. If we're on a road trip, it's kind of similar, except we also need to give ourselves time to drive from one location to the next each day, though we usually try not to drive more than an hour or two at a time. And those are our tips for how to travel and work remotely. We'd love to hear some of your tips too, so please let us know in the comments.